Alright, we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to look at some math memes, and a few of these I reference when I teach, so my students in person have heard me make reference to some of these memes. So this will give context for some people if they didn't realize what memes I was referencing. And then there's just some other fun memes out there too. You'll be able to see on the screen that I'm looking at different things on the internet, and some of those references are visible. So let's get into it. Now, the first one is this fun t-shirt. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you will see that we have Gandalf standing on the x-axis, declaring, "You shall not pass," like he did for the Balrog. But in this case, his staff is the asymptote, and we see that this hyperbola has one vertical asymptote where his staff is. There's another asymptote there where he's standing. The x-axis is a horizontal asymptote. And then we come to one of my favorites, is the division by zero memes. So in this case, we see just this huge drain of water where somebody's divided by zero and it's just created a black hole essentially in this lake, and it's draining all the water out. This is my second favorite version of this. This is my favorite version of this by far, is the hole in the ground where it says, "Your math destroyed a city." So I make jokes all the time in the classroom when I see students do division by zero or equivalent errors to that. I'm like, "Oh, you just destroyed," and I might list a local township or something like that. It's just something fun to reference in the classroom, and this has been a fun meme that's been around for years. I don't know when I first found this meme. This one is just one I found recently, and of course there are so many Fast and Furious movies out there. This one, just kind of fun math twist to it, so we get the Fast and the Fourier instead of Fast and the Furious. This one is memey and actually educational at the same time. So we see algebraic topology, a definition here, or a theorem stated about the hairy ball. And this is just like vectors across a surface. And so this is actually two different memes. The backgrounds look the same, so I don't know if the same person did both memes. I would think that was reasonable. I don't really know where I found these memes, but it's on the same subject. The talk of what the hairy ball theorem is, and then in the second panel we see one guy's sad because he can't comb the hairy ball surface, and then the other guy has switched surfaces to the torus, and he's happy because he can comb the hairy torus. So that's a nice little bit of math trivia, I guess. This one probably brings back some bad memories for people. We see the social distancing map that came out probably in the United States here, since it's in feet, because in other parts of the world they would have showed this in meters. Anyway it goes, the diagonals are bad because your diagonal in a square is not going to be equal to the side of the square. You see Professor Hawking, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Pythagoras here in the meme, and they're holding Pythagoras back because we are going to fail the Pythagorean theorem here as we look for the distance of this diagonal. This next one, you can tell how old this one is because it was developed on such an old Windows OS computer, and this is a screenshot of a screenshot, so but anyway, this is another division error that is common in the classroom, and we see that they're just canceling out the square terms from the numerator and denominator, and they don't carry that cancellation through in the other parts that the other monomials that are separated by the pluses. So we get a bad reduction here. And it says, every time you do this, a kitten dies. I love to reference this in the classroom when students make these mistakes. Something else that is really cool is that while I was going through the code for my OS, which is Zorin, which is a Linux kernel system developed in Ireland, I found a reference to killing kittens in the code for that. This is part of the look of the system. It's a CSS file, and you see in line 15 there is a comment, and one of the last lines here near the end of the comment is that every time a wildcard is used, a kitten dies painfully. So that was a fun, some people might call it an Easter egg, but it's a fun comment in the code that I see here that kind of reflects back to that meme that I referenced in the classroom. Another one that's really fun is this cat that acts like it's suffering here, and that just touching the notes is causing it to burn. If you look closely at the notes here, this is technically chemistry, probably, not pure mathematics. But, you know, there's some commonalities. This Edgar Allan Poe, looking at this proof that 0 divided by 0 is equal to 2, is funny. And I've done a video on 0 divided by 0, but I demonstrated that it's equal to pi. You can go back and check out that playlist that I have, and you see me and some other people doing fun stuff like this. We get a little matrix meme here. Which is kind of meta, because they are telling you a truth that math class is not just about dealing with numbers, but we want people to learn about logic and problem solving, and not just memorizing random formulas that you don't know how to use them or where you're ever going to use them. We get some fun cheese slicing technique here that maybe you want for your next math party. So this is the Fibonacci's sequence of snacks. And this from a community college here. We have Schrodinger's cat planning revenge if it escapes the box. This was a fun one from this academy here. Steps to be a math person. Step 1, you need to be a person, of course. And then step 2, you need to do math. And that is really the basics. So it definitely takes practice and effort and experience to be good at math. And that's like many other task-oriented things. And then this was popular for a while on the internet. How hard would Superman have to smack a turkey for it to be cooked? And so you can go through and use the kinetic energy formula here and calculate this out and see if you find that this turns out to be true. It's fun. I did this as a challenge problem, I think, at least one time in my classroom for students. And then this joke, engineers versus mathematicians, is not uncommon at all. This one definitely pokes more fun at the mathematicians in this case, since the mathematician doesn't actually put out the fire, and the engineer certainly does. They both identified the solution, but one takes action, the other one doesn't. And of course, engineers probably are going to agree with this, that the math people are just out there talking about what could be done while they're actually doing things. Little physics versus math. Again, not uncommon. And we're just trying to hide the underlying mathematical structure for physics studies. And we have some Disney screenshots here. We've got The Incredibles. I don't know which one. I've never seen The Incredibles. Some people are probably offended by that. And then we have the MCU here. And we take a sentence and we try to convert it partially to an equation with some meaning to it. I guess it's true. And then we get the little philosophical quote here. This is another one of my favorite memes, and I think there's more than one variety of this one out there. This one's nice and clean. People's responses to learning that I'm a math teacher, a math professor, a mathematician. Pick your variety. This is pretty common. People are like, oh, you're really smart, or I hated math. I do, in reality, get a few people that will say, oh, I really liked math, or I can use this part of math in my job, or hey, I wish I'd pay more attention to this in school because I need it for my job and I don't feel as strong as I could. So those are nice, and those are out there too. So this graph, of course, isn't 100%, and it's meant to be a joke, but it is pretty accurate. This one is another one that I and my students absolutely love, because students feel like this is how class actually runs. You look away for 1 second and you go from a couple of basic ideas on the board to like 3 boards worth of information that you have no idea what's going on. This is a nice, fun trigonometry joke if you understand it. Maybe a pickup line if you're in the math club. This one, I'd seen the meme and then I recreated it in Desmos. So this is desmos.com. It's their online graphing calculator, which is really nice to use. We get the yeet function, and you can see the path of an object as it would fly through the air being yeeted. And I know that slang is not as popular anymore, but it once was. And that's the end of what we're going to look at today. Hopefully you saw some memes in there that you enjoyed. There's a few of these that I enjoy and I talk about. And then there's a couple of newer ones in here. There was another one, I think, about Einstein that is probably on my phone, and I didn't get it moved over to the computer for the slideshow. Hopefully this has been fun for you. Again, I didn't create any of these memes. The credit goes out to all those fun, thoughtful creators that are out there. Cheerful Calculations.